Hey guys, Matt here from Geek and Sis, and today we're going to talk about my February NHL predictions. So what I did is I went through the February NHL schedule, and I picked out who I thought would win and who I thought would lose, overtime losses, stuff like that based off the matchups and other things like that. So we're going to get right into that. I'm going to give my predictions, and then Ryan's going to tell me what he thinks about them, and I'm going to tell you a little bit why. So starting off with the Metro, first we have Washington. By the way, the first column next to the where the names are is the games played now, not the games played at the end of February. So this video is going up January 31st. So it is going to include the January 31st games before they happen. So there isn't going to be any kind of I'm going to have to predict those games as well. Anyways, Washington, I have going 35, 22, 77 points. That's the main important thing. Washington is he has a really good team. They're back to first place. I see them keeping it and being one of the top teams in the league. I mean, there's no really big holes in their team besides some depth pieces. I think that they'll probably make a big trade maybe at the deadline maybe, and they'll hope to get past the second round this year.
I agree with you on the 77 points. It seems to be, for the past few years, Washington hasn't really started out the season too well at all.
Well,
but then,
last year, kind of.
But then for, the rest of the season, they've been really consistent with wins, and then they tend to lose in the second round.
Well, yeah.
So, I agree with the 77.
Alright, next, New Jersey, quickly, what more is there to say? I had them at 75 points. They're on a little bit of a skid now, and I have them going through that in the beginning of February and kind of feeling the effects of that. However, I had them bouncing back quickly and getting second place in the Metro as far as the end of February goes.
And what I have to say is for New Jersey, I'm thinking that they're going to keep the losing streak going for maybe, I'd say 7 more games.
Alright.
So what I think is that New Jersey is going to not be as consistent as they were in the beginning of the season and the middle. So I think New Jersey is actually going to drop down to either third or wild card.
I have Pittsburgh in third, and the reason I have Pittsburgh in third is because you've seen it before, last year, the year before. Pittsburgh likes to bounce back, especially at the end of the year. They're very good at the end of the year and in the playoffs. I mean, we've all seen it. Pittsburgh is starting to find themselves again. Matt Murray had a pretty great night last night. And Pittsburgh altogether is on track to make another playoff run, even though it was a little questionable beginning of the season. I have Pittsburgh 74 points.
I agree with everything you say. Like to bounce back late in the season. I think they are also going to get 74 points, or maybe maybe a little more.
Right.
So
next we have Philadelphia, and I had them taking the first wild card. And the reason I do have that is the Flyers have been this is unbiased, by the way. It's not just because I know the Flyers. I mean, I know the Flyers very well, but it has nothing to do with that. Mm-hmm. Just Philadelphia is the Flyers are just really, really have bounced back from that 10-game losing streak with a 7-game winning streak, a little bit of losses here and there. But recently they've been very good. Couturier, Giroux, Voracek, Brian Elliott, just everyone has been really well. So I think they'll be in relatively the same position they are now within the standings, which is 4th place or 5th. Mm-hmm. So I have them tied with Pittsburgh with 74 points and they'll have the first wild card seed.
Mm-hmm. This year, I'm thinking Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are going to be a very close match for the third place spot. But I do have Philadelphia going at 4th in the division and first wild card. So
same thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Same thing.
5th, Columbus, and the reason I have Columbus going 5th and not 3rd because they have dropped a little bit with 72 points. And I think they will bounce back a little bit in March, but I mean, this is just February. In February, Columbus has a lot of things to fix, and one of them is special teams. They are, if I believe I'm correct in saying this, but they are 30th on power play and 26th on penalty kill, or vice versa. And either way, those are really bad numbers for special teams, and you need special teams to succeed in this league. Columbus is dealing with injuries such as Brandon Dubinsky, which will slow them down. Last night versus the Wild, they were stopped when a shootout they probably should have won. Overall, I think Columbus is kind of starting to decline a little. I think they'll still work their way in the playoffs. Maybe still as a fifth wild card. I don't think they'll move up or down from February, but in February, I have them having 72 points.
I do agree that they'll have somewhere around 72, maybe but I'm thinking maybe they'll have 69. And I do not think that they'll be in a wild card position. I think that the Leafs will.
Wow. The Leafs? Who's going to kick the Leafs out of the third? No, third place in the division. The Atlantic.
Oh, shoot, I'm stupid.
Yeah. Next we have the Islanders. 70 points. This is a little surprise for me, but I was looking at their schedule and they have some hard matchups coming up and some close matchups that I think they'll lose. They'll get edged out by with some very hungry Western teams.
Yeah.
Overall, the Islanders have a really great team, but they're lacking on defense and goaltending. And that's something that comes up really prominently in the latter part of the year. And I do think that they'll make a sizable trade during the trade deadline that might improve them. So I have them doing better late February rather than early February. However, I still have them 2 points out of a wild card spot with 70 points.
Mm-hmm. I have them out of a wild card spot too. Like you said, they need better goaltending. Thomas Grace is not good enough to be an NHL starter. It's kind of like with the Antti Raanta situation.
Yeah, you're right.
He deserves to be a backup. And they also are lacking defense, of course, because I think it was the offseason, they traded
Travis Hamonic.
Yeah, Hamonic away.
To the Flames, yeah.
Yeah, to the Flames. They did get Everly from the Oilers, though, which was a great boost on offense. So
and you also have to remember Matthew Barzal.
Matt Barzal. He's having a fantastic rookie year.
Yeah, so I think they'll keep the Islanders alive. Right.
They're a very offensive team, but defense and goaltending needs work, like you said.
Carolina, I have 7th place in the division, and I don't have them doing much at 68 points. In general, I don't think they're going to do much since now, and the reason is when I look at Carolina's team, it doesn't look good for me. I'm sorry, Justin Williams to me isn't a top line forward. Their whole team is very young, including their defense. Scott Darling is, to put it nicely, terrible. No offense to Scott Darling, I'm just sorry. The numbers say it. The way he plays says it. But overall, Carolina, I don't think they're going to make too many big moves in February. And I think just like for the past 3 years, maybe not 2 years, people are saying they're going to sneak in wild card. I don't think it's going to happen. They're going to fall short in February and March later. But right now, in February, 68 points.
Goaltending, right now they actually have Cam Warden, who's actually been doing pretty good.
He has been, but I don't see him being a long-term solution.
Yeah.
And I don't mean for next year. I mean just like in a week, because he's not very consistent. So that was
he's not consistent. Cam Ward's one of those goalies that are very good at one time, and other times he's just really bad.
Yeah, and when they try and put Scott Darling in to fix that, you're probably not going to see anything better.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways, want to move on to the next one?
Sure.
Okay. Lastly in the division, now this was kind of a tough one for me to put because the Metro is just such a great division. The New York Rangers, and I had them at 66 points, so trailing a little bit behind Carolina, and still, at the end of February, could look like a playoff team. However, the reason I have them so far low is I think they're going to be competing for a wild card and even 3rd place for much of early February. However, once the trade deadline rolls around, you've seen all the reports from their GM. You've seen all the stuff going around New York.
They're on a fire sale right now.
They're trying to go into a fire sale. And I'm sorry, I don't see New York beating out with already a very tough schedule. Looking at their schedule ahead, they have some very tough opponents. After going for a fire sale, I don't see them being able to muster up the ability to make the playoffs. So I have them at 66 points, but they can still make it if something goes right.
And New York's goal right now, since they are on a fire sale, since they're trying to trade away all those old guys, like Rick Nash and Ryan McDonough, they're trying to get younger. So they're going to try to be a rebuilding team, I feel, for the past maybe like 1 or 2 years.
Definitely.
So that's what I think on. That's my take.
Alright. So next is the Atlantic with no wild cards. Just thought I should mention that. I have first place Tampa, 95 points, and Tampa's doing everything right. They've been doing everything right. I think they're going to struggle a little bit out of the gate of the All-Star game, just because they've had so many people in the All-Star game. I know they've had some time to relax, but still, I mean, it's going to affect them a little bit, not too much, maybe like 1 or 2 losses. And I also have them picking up a little more losses than they typically do this month. And that is because I think that, one, they have not too tough of a schedule, but they have some games that could definitely be trap games for a team like Tampa. And overall, Tampa's play has declined slightly. But they're still going to be a great team. And looking at my standings now, they're going to be the best team in the league, in my opinion, at the end of February. So, still, same Tampa.
I'm saying same Tampa, maybe decline a little bit. As you said, I've seen from the last month, January, they've been declining quite a bit, actually.
Not too much. I mean, just slightly.
I've seen them lose, maybe I'd say 6 games this month, which, I mean, it's expected for an NHL team, but I would expect a little more.
I'm not sure 6 games. That's quite a lot, because they only lost 14 games. I had them projected those 14 games at the end of February. But yeah. Next we have Boston, who is another team that's really lighting on fire in a trash Atlantic division. Boston has 82 points, in my opinion, at the end of February. And the reason is I think that they're going to continue going on and doing what they're doing. But I think they're going to, same with Tampa, suffer some decline. But I think they're going to bounce back on their feet, and I think Brad Marchand's loss might affect them a little bit. Maybe like 1 loss, maybe like a game changer in a couple situations, like an OT loss or something. But overall, I have Boston being relatively the same Boston, and maybe making a defensive move during the trade deadline. I don't know.
I do agree with you. I actually think that Boston's going to get rid of Chara.
Really?
It's a bold prediction, but I think they are, because he's old. And I think they are going to try to get out maybe like I don't know how to put it, but maybe a little bit worse of a defenseman, but still kind of developing.
I could never see them doing that, only because they would want veteran leadership for Charlie McAvoy and Brendan Carlo. That's just my take on it.
Also, beginning of February, I think they're going to start out slow, maybe for the past 2 or 3 games, since obviously Brad Marchand lost. But after that, I think they're going to keep steamrolling teams.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then next we have Toronto, which I have being very streaky with a very hard schedule. They go against Boston twice, I believe, and Tampa once or twice. So already very fierce competition. And I had them losing most of those games just because there is a pretty big gap between the Maple Leafs and teams like that as far as February goes, in my opinion. I think Toronto's going to make a very big move during the trade deadline. Maybe someone like Brian Boyle, like they did last year. Someone just kind of like to give them a little bit of an offensive or defensive boost. And the reason I have them kind of streaking is because Frederik Andersen is very streaky. He can either be the best goalie in the league in some nights and the worst in others.
Like Cam Ward, kind of.
Well, no. Because when Frederik Andersen is playing his worst, it's a little bit better than Cam Ward's worst. So, yeah. So, overall, Toronto, 76 points. I can't really see them doing any worse or better than that. I mean, maybe a little better, but, yeah.
I do agree with everything you said.
Next is where the
downfall of
Downfall of the Atlantic happens, yes, because they have a pretty bad division over there.
Mhm.
Sorry, guys, Atlantic fans, but it's just the truth.
It is.
Uh,
Even though they made it to the finals and the All-Star game, still they're one of the worst.
well, they have some stars.
They have stars, but stars doesn't make up like depth for.
Well, it's more than that they have 3 really good teams. Anyways, Detroit. Well, I have Detroit going on a little bit of a run, and I don't mean a big run. I mean 26, 24, and 12 at the end of February, 64 points, which is a very big upgrade. But at the same time, you look at some of the teams they're playing, and you realize that they don't have much of competition. And when you look at Detroit's roster, you see that they have a team that can actually win and put up some points, in my opinion. And compared to Florida, Montreal, Ottawa, Buffalo, I think that they have the best chance of rising up from that garbage pit with 64 points. Not a lot, just a little bit. And not much to say elsewhere. Just Detroit playing a little better.
Yeah, it's really hard to think that any of these teams can make like a 4th place spot in any division.
Because they're just that bad.
Yeah. So out of all the teams, I'm gonna have to give it to Detroit because the rest of the teams, they're not having their best season.
That's to put it lightly.
That's.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be really nice.
Neither
is Detroit, but out of all those teams, to pick one for 4th place, I'm picking Detroit.
Alright. Next is Florida, which I have 5th place, and there's not too much to say here. 56 points, so another big drop off. Florida won't do much in February. If anything, they'll probably lose most of their games. Very hard schedule, not enough depth, not a great team overall, nothing more to say.
By the way, for the rest of your list, for the Atlantic, I agree with you because I really have no take on the rest. It's just that.
So we'll just go for the rest of the Atlantic quickly. Montreal, 55 points. Marc Bergevin. Ottawa, 7th place with 50 points. They could win games. They don't.
They don't though.
Yeah, it's a problem. I don't think that'll change anytime soon, especially in February.
Mm-hmm.
And then last in Buffalo. Buffalo will probably be sellers at the deadline now and just make them even worse.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Probably sell someone like maybe Jason Pominville or something.
But the problem is, Buffalo has a good team. They just can't.
They have parts of a good team. They have parts of a good team. It's just they don't have anyone to help Jack Eichel, and they don't have.
They have Jason Palm.
They don't have a number 1 D man besides. Well, actually, I guess Ramsey.
Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, they have some good players. It doesn't make a whole team.
True. But
And they don't have very good coaching, in my opinion, or very good management.
they don't have coaching. They don't even have coaching.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. And Robin Leonard isn't very consistent, but I want to move on to Central.